Hello everyone, welcome to a new problems tutorial series, this time for chapter 5 of our financial management course, BUS 223. In this series we're going to be looking at a number of exercises and look at how we could solve them. Okay? For the first problem that we're going to cover in this particular video is going to be problem number 1. So let's read it together first. It says Old Time Savings Bank pays 4% interest on its savings account. If you deposit $1,000 in the bank and leave it there, A. How much interest will you earn in the first year? B. How much interest will you earn in the second year? And C. How much interest will you earn in the 10th year? Now, understanding the question is really important here, because if you read this question you might jump straight to the conclusion that you're gonna need to calculate the future value of this amount in these specific timelines after 1 year, after 2 years, and then after 10 years. But that's not what the question wants. The question specifically wants you to figure out what was the interest that had accumulated in the account within each specific year that the question is requesting, right? So for the first year, we just want to know how much interest did the account earn in that specific year, okay? And then again, for the second one, for B, how much interest did the account generate within the second year only, all right? So it's very important for you to understand that to be able to answer the question correctly, okay? So let's start with the first one. A. Before we do that, let's just remind ourselves with the formula for calculating the future value of a simple amount or a single amount. The future value is going to be equal to the present value multiplied by 1 plus the rate of return to the power of t, or n. Depends on the denotation that your textbook uses. As I mentioned in the lecture, typically most books use n, but our book for this course uses t, so we're going to go with that. All right? Okay. So for part A, we want to find the future value. We'll just call it FV for short, for time equals 1, which is going to be the present value given to us in the question to be $1,000 multiplied by 1 plus the interest rate or the rate of return, which is 4%, to the power of t equals 1. So this is going to be ignored, right? Now, for this one, we want to find the interest that was earned on the account in the first year. So we don't really have to use this formula. We can just use the simple return calculation, right? But because we're going to use this same formula for the following requirements, I'm going to start with, or I'm going to be using the same formula to make things easier for you, okay? So we don't want to overcomplicate things. Okay. So, turning to our calculators, 1,000 multiplied by, we open a bracket, 1 plus 4%, so that's going to be 1.04. 1.04, close the bracket, and that's going to give us $1,040. All right? Now, this is the future value, but you cannot stop here because this does not really satisfy the question. Remember the question, how much interest will you earn in the first year? So for us to figure out what's the interest, we need to separate the interest from the principal. Okay? So we could say interest earned at year 1 is going to equal the future value at time equals 1 minus the present value. Okay, so that's going to be $1,040 minus the principal, which was $1,000. So the amount at the beginning of the year was 1,000. At the end of the year, it had grown to 1,040. So from there, we can derive that the interest was the difference, which is $40. Okay, so that's the answer to the first part, part A. Now let's look at part B. It says, how much interest will you earn in the second year? Okay, so now, again, we want to calculate the future value. So let's imagine this. Let me try to simplify things for you with a timeline. Okay, say this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Okay, excuse the gap, it's fine. All right, so the value initially was $1,000. This is the amount that we have invested. Okay, in the first year, or by the end of the first year, the amount had grown to $1,040. Now we want to see how much will the amount be right here in year 2, and then again we'll take the answer from here and subtract it from the initial value, or the value at the start of the second year. Okay, so again, I'm going to use the same formula, future value, but this time for t equals 2, it's going to equal the present value multiplied by 1 plus r to the power of t, which is 2 in this case. Okay, the present value, or the principal, was 1,000 multiplied by 1 plus 0.04, which is 4%, to the power of 2. Okay, using a calculator, 1,000 multiplied by, open a bracket, 1.04, close the bracket, and raise it to the power of 2. My calculator is giving me 1,081.6. Okay. So now we know that right here at year 2, the amount had grown to $1,081.60. Okay, which means that the interest is going to be the difference between this amount and this amount, right? So again, we'll say interest earned at year 2 is going to equal 1081.60 minus 1040. Okay, and that's going to be $41.60. And that's the answer for part B. All right. Now for part C, we have a big jump. So we want to know how much interest will you earn in the 10th year. Okay, so we want to see how much interest was earned right here in this specific period, from the end of the 9th year to the end of the 10th year. Okay, so that means again, we're going to need to find both of these. We want to see what's the future value here and what's the future value here and find the difference between the two. Okay? Using the same formula, future value formula, part C, we're going to say future value at t equals 9. It's going to equal 1000 multiplied by 1 plus 0.04 to the power of 9. I'll go back to my formula and just change the power. Okay. So now, by the end of the 9th year, the value of the account is gonna become 1,423 and 31 cents. Okay, 1423. We'll just write it here. 1423, 31. Okay. And then again, we need to find the future value at time equals 10, or at the 10th year. It's going to be 1000 multiplied by 1 plus 0.04 to the power of 10. If you have a scientific calculator, you don't have to repeat these numbers each time. You can just go back to your previous formula and change the power. So I'm just going to delete the 9 from my calculator and replace it with a 10, which gives me 1480 and 24 cents. Okay. Again, I'll rewrite it up here. 1480, 24. Okay. So now, to find or to answer the question, how much interest was earned at the 10th year, we'll just take this and subtract the initial value from it. So we'll take the future value at the end of year 10 and subtract from it the future value by the end of the 9th year. And that will give us the interest that was specifically earned during this time period, during this 1 year period. Okay? So again, we'll say interest earned at year 10 is going to equal 1480.24 cents minus 1423 and 31 cents. Okay. So 1480.24 minus 1423.31. And our answer would be $56.93. Notice how the interest earned each year is growing year after year. So in the first year, the account only generated $40 in interest, right? Right here. Correct? In the second year, the interest earned had grown a little bit. So this time, the account did not generate only $40, it generated $41.60 in interest. And then a few years later, by the end of the 10th year, the account now generated $56.93 in 1 year. Okay, and that's the power of compounding, because notice on the timeline how each year's future value becomes the present value for the year after. It becomes the principal for the year after. And you're no longer earning interest on the principal only, you're earning interest on the principal plus the interest from the previous years. Okay? which gives you a compounding effect and increases the amount of interest earned in an absolute value from 1 year to the year after. Okay. I hope that you found this video useful. So these are our answers. In the first year, the account generated $40 in interest. In the second year, it generated $41.60 in interest. And then it earned, in the 10th year, it earned $56.93 in interest. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. And until I see you in the next problem tutorial, keep on learning, and I wish you the best of luck. Take care.